Welcome to National Signing Day live on the YouTube and podcast homes for BamaOnLine.com. Travis Reier, senior analyst, a mediator of sorts today on this big day, December the 20th, 2023. Top prospects putting pen to paper or in digital form, I guess, these days, electronic form, guys. But joined, of course, by site publisher Tim Watts right up there with me. And then the centerpiece today, Andrew Bone. Guys, it's been a newsy Wednesday of sorts for the Alabama Crimson Tide in terms of really augmenting this 2024 class. Some of it's been good, a little bit of it not so much, but here in just the last few moments, right? Aaron Hampton, the four-star athlete from the state of Texas. I get some Jalen Waddle feels maybe a little bit from this guy. So here just of recent anyway, Tim, some good news for Alabama.
Yeah, it's been, like you said, it's been busy. We've had nonstop activity leading up to this. Now, Hampton, he's probably been the most frustratingly hard to pin down commitment since he hit high school. He's had several commitments. He's went back and forth. We've had him in Bama's class at times. We've had him out of it, committed back to Texas where he originally started. And, Alabama just kept talking to him and working him. And, you're getting a two-way athlete, a guy that can play on defense, a guy that can play on offense. I think Bama will probably look at him on offense first and just figure it out from there. But, yeah, flipping him from Texas. Obviously, Texas is one of those top 5 recruiting schools. A good get by Alabama this morning.
Andrew, I know your guy up there in Canada, Steve Mbumoy. I did some research on that last name. Now that he is officially a part of the Alabama Crimson Tide, decided to go ahead and latch on with UA. That was a nice pickup earlier in the day for the Alabama defensive front, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think everyone's just going to call him Steve. He loves. I think he loves that. He loves his name. Loves the fact that Alabama fans are big fans of his. And I had an interesting conversation with him on Tuesday evening, and he told me, he said, I actually committed the week Alabama played USF. Of all things, he made the decision a while back in September. Told Coach Saban. Coach Saban said he would keep it completely quiet because he wanted to have a big signing day event in Canada. It was going to be a big deal for the country, and he wanted to do it there, and was really proud. He moved to Canada when he was 12 years old with his mom and little sister, and he has been living there for the last 7 years. But Alabama offered him back in the summer. Really loved him. I mean, he's almost 6'4", 275 pounds. Looks like he's 225 pounds. I mean, he is a physical specimen. I mean, he is a great football player, and certainly somebody that you get him into the college football program for a year or two, he's going to develop into a great player, in my opinion. Now, this is also Freddie Roach's big win. For Coach Roach evaluated him during the summer, and he talked about the relationship there with Freddie throughout the process and how that played a very important role in the decision. But at the end of the day, Alabama gets a defensive line target that they really went after. He was supposed to go on a trip to Mississippi State last weekend, and I think we even saw some reports that he had a great trip. Even though there was no quotes from him, we saw some reports that said he had a great trip. But Steve told us last night he didn't even go to Mississippi State, that he had committed to Alabama back in September, respected Coach Saban, but also wanted to create a little bit of drama down the home stretch. He didn't want everybody just to assume that Alabama was the only school that was in play. He wanted some other schools involved because there were other schools that heavily recruited him and pursued. But once he committed to Alabama in September, it was kind of all over for him. And the good thing about him is he's also going to join the team here in the next week. He'll be on campus December the 26th. We'll go out with the team to Pasadena. Can't play, but he's going to start practicing with the team here pretty soon.
Nice trip.
Did you see his press conference?
Yeah, it was awesome. He did it
very unique. It's probably my favorite. I mean, it was with like
a little girl.
Yeah, it was almost seemed staged, and none of it was. I mean, he had the He had the little girl in his lap. They were speaking French. You know,
You're the world traveler. What all was he saying up there?
Yeah, I was trying to get Tim to translate.
I know one French word from that press conference. I knew Alabama. So that's all the French I spoke. But the little girl was cute. She's like doing the old hat toss. She's like taking off the other teams and slinging them. Whole thing was in French. So pretty awesome to see. And like Andrew said, that's a grown man physically.
Kind of reminds me a little bit of a Dalvin Tomlinson type, just kind of looking at his measurables. And I know Charles Power had a really good descriptive of our director of scouting for On3 and what he brings to the table. And, Tim, we talked about this too. Don't forget about the transfer portal, because Alabama picked up a nice one in LT Overton. And I know there's been a lot of interest in Edric Houston here in the last 30 to 45 minutes. Would he stick with Ohio State? Would he flip to Alabama? We talked about that scenario a little bit yesterday on T Watts and TR. You still had a guy like LT Overton out there, and that's a nice pickup for Alabama.
Yeah, he's interesting. I mean, this is a guy that absolutely was a dominant high school player. I mean, he was dominant, skipped a grade, playing defensive end, gets to Texas A&M. He's, moved up. He's a year young for his class. I think he turns 20 during the season next year. Maybe that might, I don't know. I've got a lot of ages going through my mind, but he's young for his grade. Played him at linebacker. That's definitely not his position. He's going to get bigger. He's going to play end. But, I think it's kudos to him to kind of realize that maybe I didn't go to the best place to develop me, and then going and trying to find a better fit for what his skill set is. Because he's not like a jack. He's not like an outside linebacker. But the Aggies were experimenting with that big defensive line class. Anthony Lucas was at linebacker, if you remember him. He's from Arizona. They were just trying to get all those guys on the field, So, yeah, Overton's a big one. Big upside guy is what I think you could say there.
What about running back? That's kind of been the thing I've asked you guys, it seems like, for 3 months now. I guess Jaden Ball ends up at Florida today, if I've got that correct. And I know coming up here in just 5 or 6 minutes, a big one potentially could drop in Alabama's favor, Andrew, and Kevin Riley.
Yeah, Kevin Riley out of Tuscaloosa County High School, top 100 back. And Kevin was one of those running backs that was on the short list back several months ago. Alabama signed 2 top 4 running backs in the country in last year's class with Justice Haynes and Richard Young. We know the 2024 cycle is probably going to be a little bit of a challenge for them. And, Kevin Riley was on that short list along with Nate Frazier, who signed with Georgia. But he ends up committing to Miami back in June. Kind of caught a lot of people by surprise when he made the announcement, because he never set anything up, just all of a sudden announced out of nowhere, not taking any other visits besides a trip down to Coral Gables. And, it was just kind of surprising. But Alabama kept recruiting him, kept watching him during the season. And, even I think about a week and a half ago, he came out and said that he was shutting down his recruitment, was not going to take any more visits. Nick Saban goes in home. Has a visit with him, Coach Gillespie, and he decides at the last minute to take the official visit to Alabama this past weekend. And a lot of momentum, on the Tide side heading into the announcement here in the next 5 minutes. And I think the Miami side has, probably lost some confidence there, but you also never know. Ohio State side lost confidence in Edric Houston. Even an hour before he announced his decision. So, anything is possible these days, but we like where Alabama sits right now with Kevin Riley heading into the decision.
I think the running back position was probably the most affected, had the most drama, but also the most affected maybe by the NIL. They were in really good shape with Kewan Lacey, who had been committed to Nebraska. He blew up, ended up going to Missouri. And right before he went to Missouri, we all thought Ole Miss had him. And both of those have been very active in the NIL. Lost him. Jaden Bob, Monday we had reports. Alabama was in really good shape. Florida came back in. They're needing some wins over there in Gainesville right now on the recruiting trail. They're doing a lot of battling, and came in and ended up getting him a good football player. So now down to Riley. Still got Daniel. Our boy Daniel still out there doing something, smiling. He knows where he's going. I don't know if anybody else knows where he's going. But that running back position, and we kind of expected that with the 2 guys they got in last year's class. We kind of expected it would be a little bit trouble. Also, you add in the fact this is not a great running back year, but I think Robert Gillespie in Alabama did a great job of finding guys like Baugh and Lacey and finding guys later in the process to recruit.
Now, what about cornerback Zay Mincy out of Daytona? Still some intrigue there. I guess he's going to sign with the school of his choice, Andrew, on Thursday, and then announce his decision January 6th at the All-American Bowl. What else do we know about that situation?
I mean, this is, I think these last 24 hours, it's been very fluid, as we always say with a lot of these kids. And yesterday, it seemed like it was Miami, and today, there's been a lot of chatter on Alabama, and he's not going to announce. Nobody's going to know for sure where he's going until January the 6th at the All-American Bowl. But Alabama seems to have some positive momentum. I guess it kind of depends on, has he signed already? Does he sign tomorrow? Does he sign Friday? We just don't know how many more conversations he's going to have with coaching staffs that can potentially change his mind. But as of this afternoon, and talking to national guys, guys that cover Miami, cover Florida, it seems like Alabama is trending in the right direction as of today, and that would be obviously a huge win for the Crimson Tide. Number 2 defensive back or number 2 cornerback in the country. I think he could play really anywhere in the secondary, but that would be a home run win for Alabama, especially with this defensive back class that they have right now.
Yeah, need to remind folks too, even as we do this live at it's nearing 1 p.m. Central on Wednesday, there's still some I's to be dotted and some T's to be crossed, maybe in some instances. There's the difference between trending towards a particular school. There's obviously, even these days, committed, signed. The old adage, it's not over till the ink dries, or at least that used to be what it was before the electronic era. I think that's something we have to keep in play and keep in mind as well.
Don't forget the Trey Sanders drama from not too long ago. That was a committed big battle. Didn't send in his confirmation. Went to the party to celebrate.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, we were reporting like he's going to do it. He's at a party, and they're like, "Oh, sure." And then, Georgia was heavily involved. And again, tip of the hat to Mike Loxley for locking that down. But that was a wild, wild West type of moment.
So as we wait on Kevin Riley here, and that's expected to happen one way or the other in the next 5 to 10 minutes in the Tuscaloosa area, I've got the commitment signee list up from our side of things at on3.com. Alabama checking in at the time that I had refreshed this anyway as the number 2 ranked class for the 2024 cycle. And guys, just sort of how this played out today, I guess, with the bowl practice participants, the early enrollees that were already in Tuscaloosa, those names coming across from an official perspective, kind of what you anticipated first. And then again, some of the more newsier guys, I guess, Tim, followed suit.
Yeah, we knew there's going to be a lot of drama. Not just in Alabama in the market. We had rumors about Jordan Seaton. He's still loosely affiliated with Alabama, still some thread of connection there. Perry Thompson, the Kentucky fan base, started a Rico Scott rumor last night. It's been one rumor after the other. Now, some of them turn out to be true, and some of them don't. Obviously, with Edric Houston, we saw that. We saw others with Baugh that did turn out to be true. He was leaning to Bama. He was leaning to Florida. He did sign with Florida. So, yeah, all this stuff just coming down here with dominoes. Alabama going into this really had a good class regardless of who they finished with, as long as they held on to their guys, and we discussed that. And so to get anybody else to add little guys like a weekend ago, the thing about it is Friday, nobody was really talking that much about Kevin Riley. Nobody was talking about Edric Houston. Nobody was really talking about Arian Hampton. So all this has just happened since the course of the weekend till here. Now, it seems like it was 2 months ago, but it literally, Houston, we broke the news on Saturday that he was going to be in Tuscaloosa. So a lot has happened since there. Dominoes kind of falling. I know that's not the best analogy, but they really like their class going into wherever they were at, adding a few more pieces, getting to that late period, getting to the portal. You got a lot of things happening. There's a lot of guys in that portal, and as we discussed earlier in the week, that's just the first wave. We got wave 2 and 3 coming for that portal.
Yeah, still a lot to be done in terms of roster management, roster reconstruction
Absolutely.
on some fronts. And you look at some programs that were impacted, I think, on signing day. Florida comes to mind, specifically here down the stretch. And I guess Auburn maybe even benefited from some of that from the Florida perspective with the wide receiver class that the Tigers have put together so far, which leads us back to Ryan Williams and the cohesiveness of his commitment to Alabama. You guys have said consistently that nothing has changed. Ryan Williams still looking very much like he'll be a part of Alabama's 2024 class.
We do have some
Any
breaking
thoughts
news.
on him today?
We got
As
some
far as
breaking news. Breaking news.
Breaking news.
Kevin Riley has flipped his commitment to Alabama.
there you go.
All right.
Just saw that
There you
news pop up. So that is some breaking.
There's your running back. Yeah.
That is 2 flips this morning.
Yeah.
2-0 right now. We're counting. We're keeping the score. How many do you get? How many do you lose? That's the key to this game. But yeah, I really like this pickup for Alabama. I know he's not the big back. Some of the guys won't. He's not a small back by any means. 5'11", 6 foot tall, 200 pounds as a 17-year-old. But all the little things you like in a running back, quick burst, vision, plant a foot and cut ability, all that kind of stuff, a little breakaway speed he's got going for you. And that was the big deal. You wanted to hit – what did we discuss earlier? We wanted defensive linemen. That's what we felt they needed. And we wanted a running back. Well, they've got 2. They've got Steve, they got Overton, and now they've got a running back still out there with Daniel Hill, looking around as a possibility. And again, the portal and, everything that goes with that comes with it.
Yeah. And you think about now the skill positions that you plug Riley in there, guys at the running back position, Julian Sayin, it goes without saying, right? The nation's number 1 quarterback prospect for 2024, Caleb Odom, a do-it-all sort of tight end flex player at his position, considered to be the top option in the 2024 class. Ryan Williams, you anticipate being a part of this thing as one of 3 wide receivers, at least, I would guess, for this cycle. You add Jay Lindsey here as another tight end, and it's a good-looking class. Now, Aaron Hampton, he gives you some versatility too as a wide receiver type, I guess, or could play some defense and also can impact the return game.
Yeah, you got guys. That's the thing. They've got plenty of offense already, but you're adding those small guys. I like Hampton. If he gets his first look at offense, I think he is sort of that Kendrick Law type role. That where you find him, you put him in space, you put him in motion, you give him the ball, he can run reverses, all that kind of stuff. You bring him in there, and then Riley's just going to tote the mail. You're adding him to a legitimate top 50 to 100 type running back, and not a great running back class. You add him with some of the guys you've got on campus, and you kind of look forward. It'll be a young group, but it's kind of you're looking forward to seeing what they can do, because they all have that breakaway speed. They all have that long distance ability.
Defensively, Andrew, we talk about the makeup of this class. I wouldn't guess that Aaron Hampton and Jalen Mbakwe are tied at the hip, but similar players in terms of what they can bring to a team offensively, defensively, perhaps in the return game. Maybe Hampton being an offensive guy first. Jalen Mbakwe, though, right? We anticipated him getting his start at corner, Xavier Brown at corner, Peyton Woodyard at the safety position. Jameer Grimsley's a guy that there was a little bit of question about at the stretch run of this thing. The Florida native sticks with Alabama. Sterling Dixon at the linebacker position. Caden Jones, I guess more of an edge option, or perhaps could be. Isaiah Fonga up front on that defensive line. Looks like a well-rounded class on that side too, Andrew.
It is. I think we went into this recruiting cycle thinking Alabama really needed to load up in the defensive backfield, especially at corner. And, they were able to get an early commitment from Jalen Mbakwe. He committed before the start of his junior season. And, a lot of schools were coming after him still pretty strong, but he was solid kind of throughout the whole process, and also was a big recruiter for the Crimson Tide. They were able to flip some guys. Red Morgan flipped his commitment from Florida State. They also were able to flip Peyton Woodyard from Georgia. So those were some big gets in the secondary for Alabama. And then on the defense front, I know a lot of people were upset that Edric Houston didn't flip from Ohio State today, but we weren't even talking about Edric Houston a week ago as a possibility. It kind of emerged in the last 5 days, but I think with Alabama, they're excited about Jeremiah Beeman. Isaiah Fonga was a outstanding player at Central High School in Phoenix City. Probably, in my opinion, one of the most underrated players in this recruiting class. 6'2", 285 pounds. Was an early commitment to Utah. His uncle, defensive line coach out there, and he's originally from Vegas. So he moved to Alabama a few years ago. Dad is in the military. And he ends up flipping back in the summer. But he had Alabama and Texas pushing hard to flip his commitment. He ends up flipping to the Tide. Jeremiah Beeman, top 100 in-state defensive lineman from Parker, who a lot of people knew this back in the early part of the fall. Auburn was trying really hard to flip him, and there was some confidence, in November that he was going to flip on the Auburn side. So getting him to stick was huge. Linebacker-wise, I think that they got a really good class there. Sterling Dixon, unbelievable season at Spanish Fort, coming off of a year where he had almost 20 sacks at Mobile Christian. Just a really good linebacker class. Caden Jones, 6'4", 220 pounds. Played safety throughout his high school career, but moved to linebacker. And I know Alabama's really excited about him. And then they go out to Germany and get a German linebacker who showed up in Tuscaloosa this summer at 6'3", 225 pounds. Ran a 4.5 in the 40. This is a very impressive athlete. Justin Okenroa is a kid that might need a year or two of development once he gets into the system. But talking to his coaches, they think he's going to immediately be an impact player on special teams, and he's going to get there in the next few weeks to start training with the Tide during the off season. So good class overall in the defensive on the defensive side of the ball. And I think there's still some guys out there, as we mentioned, Zay Mincy, that they would love to add here on January the 6th.
Hey, guys, I'm going to ask you both, and I'm going to take quarterback out of the equation because you signed the number one quarterback for a cycle. That goes without saying. That's the area where you probably feel like they knocked it out of the park the most. So we'll go other than quarterback. Tim, I'll start with you. Which area of this team do you like the most in terms of Alabama plugging these signees into a particular area? And understanding too, as we talked about, there's still some possibilities out there as we move beyond today and put a wrap on this class down the road.
Yeah, I think the biggest opportunity is going to be for a lot of these secondary guys, especially if you add Zay Mincy, a lot of guys that are competitive. There's opportunity there because of guys leaving. Kool-Aid's probably gone, Arnold possibly gone, Malachi gone. So you got those guys. But I'll tell you the one that I'm secretly really like the most, I think I like the tight ends. I think you bring two guys. I don't know if they can adjust that quickly, but I find it hard to believe that Jay Lindsey's not going to work on the field a little bit, possibly next year behind Robbie Oots. I mean, he's any kind of injury away from actually being the main guy possibly. And then you got Caleb, who I think's a mismatch they're going to try to work in. Now, it might be a little later in the season or down the road, but as a group overall, I still just go to the tight ends because they're literally yin and yang to me. They literally are the perfect match there. But I believe the secondary will have opportunities with the talent they've got to come in and compete.
What about it, Andrew?
I'm going to go interior offensive line. Alabama signed a great great offensive tackle class last year, led by Caden Proctor, who we saw as a starter this year at left tackle. This year was more focused on the interior. They were able to get Casey Poe, the number one interior lineman in the country. William Sanders, number 4 interior lineman in the country. Joe Ionata, number 15. So you get 3 top 15 interior offensive linemen. They may not play right away, but these are guys that are going to be impact players down the road and guys that are really going to help that offensive line unit. Coach Wolf has done a tremendous job, building that offensive front, developing those guys. We saw, we really saw what that offensive front was able to do in the later part of the season once they kind of gelled together. And you had 3 new starters on the offensive line this season, and including a freshman left tackle. So it was going to there were going to be some rough patches, but once they got going, they did really well down that home stretch. And now you get 3 really good interior players on the inside. So I know that it may not be the prettiest position, but it's the position that you want to have success in, and you got to have some warriors in the trenches. And I think Alabama did great on the interior offensive front.
Impossible to ignore the impact, guys, of NIL these days. And with that, I'm going to ask you both. This time around, was there as big of an impact as you've seen to this point? And understanding it's not supposed to be a recruiting enticement, or at least that was the way it was initially designed and implemented. That's great. That's word salad, I think, as we all realize at this point. Tim, how has it played out this time around, in your opinion, as far as NIL and its impact?
I think it could have actually factored in a lot of these late decisions. Boz won. We know it did with Lacey. Houston. I mean, I feel the intel we had on Houston was very much accurate. So I think it could have came down to a business deal, but it doesn't really bother me. You do it this long, day before signing day. We've always heard of the Midnight Rider, the bag being dropped, the Adidas, we've all seen the movie Blue Chips or whatever. We've been hearing about this forever. So there's always been enticements. I think it factored on the front end the most, because when you recruit them, you kind of have to get them right. You got to negotiate and get them right and get the paperwork done and all that. So I think there's more of an effort there. But at the end, nothing surprises me. I mean, you see big names flip. And let's be honest, if there was no NIL and a 5-star flip from this school to that school, what would everybody be saying anyways? The bag was dropped.
Yeah.
Man, direct deposit now. Same thing to me.
Is that the sense you've gotten from all this, Andrew?
I think so. I mean, NIL is legal, so you can go out there, you can get kids, you can sign them to big NIL deals. It just depends on who's gonna make a bigger deal than someone else. And we know how Alabama operates. They're just not gonna necessarily do that. They want everybody across the board to have similar NIL deals. They don't want half their team to have a big NIL package and the other half to not. They want to make it fair across the board at every single position group. So there's always going to be guys that are going to get bigger NIL packages than others. But when you get late in the process and you start hearing, this guy's getting this guy's getting that, and a lot of times Alabama just isn't going to budge. They kind of lay out their plan. Hey, this is what we have for you here. This is how you're going to get developed. This is how you can make money off of NIL. But they're not just going to say, hey, we'll give you an extra $100K in the NIL package just for you to come here. And because it's a weird investment. You don't know for sure if that player is going to develop into something, or if he's going to potentially hit the portal in the next year or two. Because that you look at Texas A&M, there was a lot of guys out there that hit the portal after a year or two, and we know that they got some big NIL deals when they committed to the Aggies a few years ago. So I don't necessarily have a problem with NIL. There's a lot of people who do, but it's the way the game works now.
I'll tell you this, you can change the trajectory of a young person pretty easily with this NIL. There's some reckless behavior. I mean, think of us with $300,000 in our bank account. We just bought a Hellcat when we were 18. I wouldn't consider myself the wildest guy on the road, but I'm pretty sure that thing would have had some dings on it, and I'd have had some scary moments as a young. So, I mean, there's a lot that goes into play with the NIL. Mainly why I have the problem is that who's handling the money? Adults have trouble with the money. So what are young guys doing in the people trying to handle. I just hope they got a support group around them. But the NIL in itself, I mean, we knew what this was going to be. It was never going to be how much is your face worth. You know, it was going to be how much are you worth to them. I mean, we knew all that was coming anyways.
Who wants to watch some Aaron Hampton clips right now?
I like him. I watched him
How
last
about
night.
that?
He's
There
a
he
fun
is
guy,
right
isn't
there
he?
running the post. Bubba Hampton.
He'll bust you too now.
Yeah. Watch him come up here as a DB. Yeah.
He doesn't look at that. He
Not
doesn't
afraid
mind.
of the contact.
Yeah.
Working out wide here on offense, sort of an X spot. Just going to run that deep post right by that safety, right by that corner. There he goes.
He's got the breakaway speed, but he's a very physical guy. He's a lot like Ryan Williams in that regard. You know, Ryan Williams is 165 pounds, but he blocks his ass off. I mean, he blocks like he's 200 pounds. I mean, he's a physical guy, and I think that's why you label Hampton more so as a safety or excuse me, as an athlete. Rather than just saying he's a wide receiver or he's only a safety. I mean, this is a physical guy that can take it the distance. If he touches the football, make plays on the offense side, or he's going to come up and make some big plays, against the run game. So I think Alabama is excited to get him on board. It was, as Tim mentioned earlier, a kind of a wild recruitment to follow. Nobody really knew what he was going to do. I don't think Alabama was positive what he was going to do until he signed that letter of intent today. There was probably some, I guess, from the Texas standpoint, they didn't know. They fought hard to keep him on board late, but in the end, nobody really knew until he signed that LOI.
There you go. Nice pickup there. And Aaron Hampton. I'm going to get us up, guys, some Kevin Riley video coming up next. Let's try to do that. I'm getting out over my skis a little bit here.
Hey,
as I try to get technical.
We're practicing for next year.
You start letting me hit some of these buttons. You're
Yeah,
not quite sure what you're going to get.
Started figuring out everything that was going on, and we're like, oh, Lord.
There we go. All right. We're going to have some Kevin Riley, I think, for you here. Right here. There you go. Some Kevin Riley working him from like a pistol position there. A little split zone between the tackles.
Yeah, you see that? That's the kind of stuff he does. That little jump step right there, the little things, finding, the best running backs, a lot of them have similar physical traits, but when it comes to vision, that's kind of what separates him. If you watch him, he clears room. He can navigate through that melee, that scrum you've got going on in the middle of the line of script. In the middle, one step, plant and go guy
sets it up. A little bit of subtle.
Kid. This is look at that. This is a thick guy. I mean, he's got a strong lower body.
Brian Robinson of North Tuscaloosa. Brian was South Tuscaloosa.
Brian, I remember seeing Brian against Thompson High School.
Nice patience there. Kind of sets it up nicely.
He's got all the running back intangibles that you want. You know what I mean? You also see you can have it physically and not have the little things like look at him navigate.
Yeah.
So little burst, little speed, get out there.
And look, Tuscaloosa County's made some nice strides, guys, but they're in that region from hell. Yeah, right. You think about the competition this guy has played against in the last few years. And it's tough for county.
It reminds me of Jace McClellan a little bit.
Yeah. Good stuff there. Again, I think that's Thompson. That run was against.
Yeah, this is not a nice area.
So that's not Dollar General Academy. All right.
There it is, that plant and go and run a guy.
Power right there.
Absolutely run him over. So
good stuff. Nice pickup.
Nice little addition. I'm not sure everybody kind of considers him a small back. He's not particularly small. I mean, this isn't, Aaron Hampton's kind of a small type athlete. This guy's got some size on him.
He's about 6 foot. I don't know if he's at 200 pounds yet, but
he's about what Brian was. Yeah.
He's close to it.
We still got one. We still have one more commitment to watch today, guys.
Who do we got?
Y'all don't know.
What is this? The top 40 or American Bandstand? I'm taking requests now. I've become Dick Clark now. Casey Kasem on here.
I know Solomon Williams is out there.
Solomon Williams is still out there
coming up.
Hey, he's another one that not talking. Hey, some of these kids aren't talking to either staff, and at least not until the last moment, maybe they are. That's been the trend sometimes in the past. But Solomon's another one. Mincy, Solomon, Hampton. We had some guys that kept us guessing this year.
Absolutely. Still some stuff coming up later today. So we'll have all that coverage for you, obviously, right there at BamaOnLine.com. The roundtable, I think, guys, the refresh button is officially like it's done for some folks, and we love it. Checking us out there.
The thing about recruiting is like there's guys that come in, guys and gals come in, and it's just they're happy to watch it unfold. And then there's the one that anytime something goes wrong, you lose to Houston, it ruins their whole day for them. They won't eat tonight. They'll have trouble sleeping. It just absolutely ruins them. I see them in the gang thread when they lose 2 yards on a run. They're like, why are we running it? Then you run, you pass and they're like, run it more. So some are just always going to have anxiety about it. Some are going to love everything about it. The personalities, you can see them going live on the heels of Houston. It was literally, well, this sucks. This is a bad class too. Got Hampton. I mean, they're flipping a kid. They're flipping these guys. I mean, Peyton Woodward was committed to Georgia. It's an excellent program. Texas is an excellent program. That's who they beat Hampton for. I mean, these guys, they're winning against some big guys and having to hold on. I mean, we're not really the dramatic type, but Ole Miss was all in on Caleb Odom. All in every bit of the way Auburn was on Beeman, Jeremiah Beeman. There's a bunch of those things. We just felt Bama was comfortable there, so we didn't build the drama. We know there's enough drama on its own. We don't have to participate in it. But
so has it been a good day, guys? Has it been a good day?
It's 123, so we're
still. My wife keeps asking me when the days are going to be over.
It's been a good day.
Yeah, I love this. I mean, I loved it when we were covering Mike Shula. So that ought to tell you. I think some people forgot those classes when we're like 3-star local kid. Yes,
Chris Keys flip, baby.
I mean, Bama's literally got the number 2 class in the country right now, and people are talking about how down it is.
Yeah,
the surprises, Tim.
Getting a 5-star visitor was tough back during the Shula era.
Oh my gosh!
When they would they get one of those kids.
I'll tell you what was easy, Andrew, and Tim knows this too. Getting all those 3 stars on the phone wasn't hard.
No, they would not stop calling us.
Yeah, they want to call us.
Just wanted to check in, guys. See what's going on.
Well, we talked Tuesday. It's only been 2 days, maybe not so much. Hey, but there was no social media. Those kids wanted to talk. You know what I mean?
The 2s and the 3s, you could get them on the phone.
There's a lot of those 3-stars ended up in the NFL too, didn't they?
I mean, we were in this
chips on their shoulder.
I think Tim Tebow was like the first Shula era recruit that we struggled to get on the phone sometimes.
Well, his mom would talk to me nonstop. She would get him. Yeah. It was crazy because she'd be like, Timmy, Mr. Tim's on the phone, and it'd be like, he was so nice and polite and never said anything.
See, this could have been if Tebow goes to Alabama, we could have had T. Watts and Tebow instead of T. Watts and TR.
The craziest thing about
Tebow, a little bit of an upgrade.
For me, the craziest thing about Tebow was his mom called me. Remember they were playing Hoover that next year. You remember that? She was close.
Yeah, I went to that game. It was 1,000 degrees.
She was close with Neil Cottle's mother, Spain Park quarterback who went to Auburn. 2 years in a row, Hoover hurt Neil. Y'all remember that? Remember Andrew's dad got in a fight outside the stadium one year or something. I mean, his dad apparently got, because Hoover and Spain Park were rivals because all those Spain Park kids should have went to Hoover. Well, anyways, the mom called me out of the blue. I don't know who gave her my number and was worried about Timmy playing against Hoover. She's like, they're going to hurt him. And I was like, I promise you, if anybody gets hurt out there, it's going to be whoever's messing with Tim Tebow. We just had him at a junior Nike camp where he did 29 reps of 185 or whatever it was. It was an absurd amount. But we kind of bonded on the fact that she was worried Hoover would hurt him. Yeah. And I was stunned. I was like, what do you mean hurt him? Like jump him out before the game? You don't mean on the field, right? With pass.
I remember getting a call about a scouting report on the Hoover Bucks defense and what they would do to Timmy. But
I think that's the funny part. She's like, "Do you think they're going to try to hurt Timmy?" And I was like, I didn't know what she meant. I never even thought.
Yeah.
I never even thought about Tim Tebow being injured. I didn't know that, like, you could pierce his skin at, I mean, I still don't know if he's ever twisted an ankle, right?
Oh, bottom line, there's some perspective for you. This is shaping up to be a hell of a class. Once
I
again,
mean, if you're griping
under Nick
about it's
Saban.
number 2 class in the country on the heels of a number 1 class, maybe it's mirror time.
The last 2 recruiting classes, 1 and 2. I mean, you can't build something off of these 2 classes, and you got some problems. And I don't think Alabama has any problems.
This doesn't even include the portal that's included in these 2 classes. The portal's definitely taking it. I know other people get portal, but Bama's got a lot of boom for their back, a lot of boom for their buck.
And the thing about the portal is, Alabama brought in some defensive guys this past weekend. Obviously, they landed LT Overton, but they also wanted to get through today and then make some decisions on some other guys. If they were going to get this player or that player, then maybe they don't get then they don't go after this position group. But now that you're pretty much through the early signing period, you know who you're going to sign. Maybe you get to the Rose Bowl and you figure out who else on your team might be leaving. Then that next window opens, see who's available, try to go get them.
There's a lot to go into taking a portal guy. I think people just, we hear he's in the portal. Is Alabama interested within 2 seconds? Obviously, Alabama's going to be ahead of the curve on a lot of those guys they know is going in the portal. But, I mean, a lot goes into play. I mean, you add 1, you could lose 3. I mean, that's just the reality of it. I mean, you got guys that have been on that campus working, practicing, waiting their turn in the backup. You start adding a guy that's a proven player coming in as a junior ready to hit. Evan Stewart's going to be interesting.
Yes.
Evan Stewart, because he's a big name. I mean, I know people love him. He's a talent. I don't think he's the talent everybody else thinks. He's good. I mean, he's definitely a talent. I shouldn't say that. But he didn't really have the year everybody thinks. He had 500 or 600 yards receiving. He had decent quarterbacks. Not a great thing, but they remember him from the recruiting process. And let's be real, we're
kind of reminiscent of Keyshawn Butte a year or 2 ago.
Yeah,
remember
absolutely.
When he hit the
Eli
portal?
Ricks. I spent a
year hit the portal. Yeah.
Eli Ricks is coming in cornerback 1 and going to be a first-round pick. And I was like, he's never going to be a first-round pick. He doesn't run well enough. I mean, I knew that coming in. You build that hype machine around it, and then what comes from it. So, I mean, obviously, Alabama and Saban do the best job in the world of balancing their budget.
Now I'm getting hammered by the 3 stars can be great brigade. I get it. It wasn't a knock on 3 stars. We were just having a little fun.
We're just saying they were more accessible.
They were accessible. We love the 3 and the 2s.
It's not like Alabama loaded up 3 stars. That's the misconception I think about this recruiting class. Is everybody keeps saying that Alabama has all these 3 stars. I think there's maybe 2, maybe 3 stars.
Are they talking about the old Shula 3 stars? Or are they talking about the current 3
Well,
stars?
I'm getting Javier Arenas thrown at me. He's a great player.
I'll tell you what, the
he's also a player. He's also a player that Nick Saban probably would not recruit today.
Bama
became a great player under Nick Saban.
Bama flipped Javi from what was it, FIU?
One of the
yes, it was FIU. And I think Dave Unger had to get up on the table and beat on it for Javier Arenas.
He had me talk to Javi, and I didn't know Javi wasn't just American like me. I didn't know he had some culture, some background to him. So I got him on the phone. That's again, some of these guys you talk to are grown men. Like they're like grown, have lived a life. Javi was in that, and the Bama bump got him to 3 stars. Let's be clear, people. That was a 2-star recruit.
I think Alabama was down to a punter from like Oak Mountain or Javi. And I think they sold Javi to Shula on special teams.
That was the VH. I had to track down his highlights. I think I got 3 schools in the area to send me game film against Javi. One of the coaches said, my film will be enough. He did enough in my game. That's the highlight tape. And I was like, well, dang. So I get it. That's back in the day. Nobody's mama was filming it, putting it up, and there was no huddle. And it was like you had to go to school or hope it came in the mail.
No YouTube.
And then I got the tape. Well, I got the tape, and I said, dude, this guy's unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. Sent it in. He got the Bama bump to 3 stars.
Tim was like the Blockbuster of recruiting tapes back in the
I
day.
love to go.
He was like the
I
red
didn't
box.
understand when I got in it. I didn't understand. We had
Well, I
people.
felt like Blockbuster back in the day.
I still got a Kevin Falk VHS somewhere.
It
from
never
Karen Crowe High
registered to
School.
me
That's
that
my
we had
favorite all
people.
time.
It just never registered to me. We had people ranking them and not watching them. Like, I guess I was just so naive that I didn't understand. So I was going, getting film and seeing it. Brody Croyle, Carnell Williams were two of my first ones. I think they were going in their junior year. I mean, all those.
Did you go to Brody's announcement?
But I did watch Brody's highlight tape. Said if he had even one good wide receiver, Edry was his wide receiver, by the way. For people who don't
about
know.
all these guys now, Drake Kirkpatrick Jr.
I'm like, my gosh,
with
one of these
Alabama.
guys can catch a pass. This guy be this guy be a 5-star.
Yeah.
No, I did not. I didn't.
Guys, anything else before we wrap this up and keep it moving at BamaOnLine.com?
Been a great year. I'm excited. I love playing. Yeah, I think the Bama staff did a great job navigating. Still
some out there.
Still some out there. You still got Ryan Williams, Terry Boosie. He is a guy that's waiting until the late period.
My Christmas wish for both you guys was that Ryan Williams would go ahead and sign today. That was my Christmas.
I think that was Alabama.
How bored? We would be pretty bored in that late period. I feel like last year
going to keep some energy going. Yeah.
Last year, who do we have? Do we have James Keon? Or no, James signed early, right?
Yeah, I think everybody besides.
Did we not have any late drama last year?
Not that I remember. But then again,
I can't remember either.
So what are you guys, before we get out of here though? Solomon Williams, you talked about earlier. What's sort of the expectation, or is there one right now for him coming up a little bit?
He's just kind of been all over. I feel like Bama early, when he kind of blew up, was really good position. Oregon got involved. Texas A&M got involved. Texas got involved. Now he's handling his NIL up front with everybody. I think that knocked Oregon and Texas out of the mix. Not sure what kind of NIL player I think he is, kind of on the lower end, but that played a factor. So we had him penciled in for the Aggies. They had a coaching change. He went back to the Aggies this past week, and I still would think Texas A&M has some kind of he likes Alabama a lot, but I think Texas A&M is probably pushing to get some guys, and they lost a lot of guys on that defensive line. I don't have a clear call on this one. I don't think it's a clean call.
What about Favor Edwin?
I don't. And as far as Solomon, I do think it's could go either way with A&M and Alabama. I think it's close. Distance from home has always kind of been a factor for him, but we'll see. I mean, we know that A&M big in the NIL game, and they're probably making a strong pitch to him. So we'll see at 3 p.m. As far as Favor Edwin, this was a kid that everybody kind of penciled into Alabama a week ago, and even as of probably Sunday, talking to people on each side, Auburn side, Florida side, Alabama side, just all seemed like it was sort of a done deal.
It was definitely done. It was definitely done because
we're getting the good stuff now.
No, it was definitely done because we had our Florida guy and our Auburn people putting in their predictions are very early for Alabama, saying it was done. Our intel was it was done. And, again, this is where it makes it hard to predict. I mean, a lot of people are going to beat you up if you make a prediction and all. But, I mean, things change. It's always been fluid, but it's even more now, because it only takes one person to make a bid and another one to top it before you're in a auction. Basically, that's what you're in.
It's like a NASCAR race. You can go from first to the back.
Yeah.
In a stretch. If you get
I
caught in the wrong draft or something.
There's some guys that Alabama's just not going to, they're not going to get in those.
You got to have a value. You got to have a value. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. Pride can't get in the way. But in my mind, a lot of times I can see some of these things going, and I'm hearing that.
Well, like you guys have said, we'll catch you on the bounce back.
Oh, absolutely. But I can see
in so many cases now, there's a second go around,
Yeah, right. It could happen next month. It could happen in January, I think, to some degree. But I do think you're basically getting an auctioneer type vibe from some of these. You know what I mean? Hey, if they can get it, and that's what it comes down to. But I do think the one thing I think is the most unfair is to assume that's all that matters to most of these kids. Because I don't care what you say. Winning matters. Winning matters. Tradition matters. Not for everybody, but you know what? Sometimes money matters.
And are you playing the long game or the short game? Because the NFL damn sure matters.
Yeah, but
if you're
sometimes
playing
a
the
short
long
game can help your family immensely. You know what I mean?
And I totally get that.
That's
totally
the part. Like,
that.
I'm not going to judge if you need.
And I will never.
Yeah, I don't judge on that.
Derogatory viewpoint of a person who makes that decision. If you can get it,
hey, and that's your priority. I'm all power to you. I'm for you. But like you said, I don't know how many of that Aggies class in 21 that Alabama fans just basically called Nick Saban crazy and didn't know what he was doing. Yeah, show them up on my board. I want to see raise of hands. I heard a lot of Nick Saban didn't know what he was doing. We got to pay these guys. You got to pay them. That's how you win. I heard a lot of it. Haven't heard it lately. That's how you get your butt fired is what happens.
Yeah, it affects the locker room.
Yeah, absolutely. The team dynamic, you absolutely have to weigh in all this, man.
Because in a perfect world, you don't really tell people what you make. You kind of keep it to yourself. These are kids.
Yeah.
You saw Shedeur Sanders with his watch. These kids are driving.
They're going to drive it. They're going to wear it.
They're going to live in it.
Just like I would. If I was 18 years old in a wash in that cash.
Hey, y'all remember the video when Bear Alexander arrived in USC?
I'd have my Joe Namath full-length fur on. Yeah.
But he had an apartment overlooking the city. I mean, it was. I've never lived in that.
I'd be like Tony Montana with that cash. I'm not going to lie to you.
I'd be like
the blimp flying over with messages, stuff
I'd
like
be the restaurant scene. The bad guy, you've never seen a bad guy like me again.
Yeah, I'm not sure some of those investments have worked out well.
Say goodnight to the bad guy.
Well, you got young kids, and it's not just them. I mean, we've seen it with dancers, singers,
Alabama head coaches.
Yeah, some of them. Yeah, absolutely. That money ain't for everybody, but
it's not always just the money.
Tennis players, golf players. Remember Jennifer Capriati? She was a rich tennis player. Tiger Woods, certainly went through some stuff. I mean, money makes you crazy. Well,
and it sounds like a good spot to get off. Call it a wrap.
Yeah.
You guys are always great, man. Always insightful. I think we have a lot of fun with it as well.
Absolutely.
We were able to get some video work in with Aaron Hampton and Kevin Riley. So that was good stuff.
You guys who are watching, go check us out, BamaOnLine.com. We've got a lot going on with, interviews with these guys that have committed. Yep. We'll have some more stuff coming out in the next few days. So go check us out. Hang out with us on the round table. That's where we'll be. If you want to talk any more to us, you can come. Ask us direct questions on BOL.
On the round table.
I thought you're about to put our address out there and just say, come on and see us.
Yeah, here is Tim's cell.
Give him Joseph's address.
JoJo.
Yeah, he'll talk to him.
All right, guys, we'll let you get back to it.
All right, boys.
Thanks, man. Talk to you soon. Good stuff with Tim Watts, Andrew Bone. Appreciate you guys jumping on. And Tim, absolutely. We'll be right there at BamaOnLine.com. Also, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, for content like this and more, you need to do that. Click that subscribe button, turn on those notifications. You'll get our video content as it drops. Tim, we'll do this again soon.
All right. See you soon. Thank you, guys.
For Tim Watts, Andrew Bone, Travis Reier, thanks again. Until next time, so long, everybody.